Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews has been giving an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 11 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show today. We're meeting with Manolis Alpogianis of the America's Dog and Burger franchise. And entrepreneurial brothers Manolis and George co-founded America's Dog and Burger after a cross-country road trip through the United States. I'm going to talk to Manolis about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. Stick around because we have a great show.
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 11 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs one-on-one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott, and I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Manolis Alpogianis of the America's Dog and Burger franchise, and entrepreneurial brothers Manolis and George co-founded America's Dog and Burger after a cross-country road trip through the United States. Hi, Manolis. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much for having me on.
This is my pleasure, Manolis. We always like to ask our guests, where are you calling from this morning?
This morning I'm calling from a very sunny but wintry Chicago.
Okay, well, at least it's sunny, right, Manolis?
Yeah. You know, the sun makes a lot of difference in my life. So as long as it's sunny, I can deal with the snow.
That's fantastic. Well, it's the same here in Easton, Pennsylvania. It's sunny, but it's cold. We have a similar climate to you guys. Maybe you could talk to our guests, about, what is America's Dog and Burger, Manolis?
Yeah, sure. So really, it's my life's passion. It's something that my brother and I have worked on since 1996.
Yeah.
Basically, it is a life's work. I have always worked in the restaurant industry and worked for a restaurant company here in Chicago called Lettuce Entertain You, in California Pizza Kitchen, and before that, my family's business. So I was kind of front of the house, and my brother was back of the house. He's a chef. He's worked for pretty well-known people. If you remember 16 Candles, there was a guy, directed by the name of John Hughes, and he cooked for Frank Sinatra. But when I graduated college, I wanted to take a road trip and really enjoy the summer. So my brother joined me around the country, driving everywhere, and being poor, just out of college guys, we would stop at various, and going into the city looking for cheap eats, we'd find a local place and grab a burger or a dog, and when people would ask us what we wanted on it, we would just say everything, expecting that it would be the same like in Chicago, which is what's known as the Chicago 7, mustard, relish, onion, tomato, pickles, or pepper, and celery salt. But we noticed that each city made its own way. And so my brother, being the chef, took notes, and 3 years later, America's Dog was born, and really would and evolved to AD&B, America's Dog and Burger. And really, what it does, it really celebrates America, the Great American Road Trip, and features different city-style hot dogs and burgers, how they make them uniquely in those cities.
I love the story. I mean, it's just, this is, I've been doing this show for 11 years now. And, when I read about your story, Manolis, I said, wow, I mean, this is an amazing story. So, the whole thing kind of really happened by accident, right? I mean, it really wasn't planned out. I mean, it just was kind of almost like divine intervention, it's like, the opera kind of found you and your brother, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was really interesting that, Chicago is a great hot dog town. The hot dog to Chicago is like the pizza slice to New York, right? Like everyone has their favorite hot dog stand in Chicago. And at that time, back in 1990, I think we pitched it in 94, opening March of 96. There was a huge development that the city was doing along the lakefront here in Chicago called Navy Pier. And no one really believed in the success of Navy Pier. It was kind of like out in the middle of the lake, and was abandoned warehouses at the time. And all the big players, all the traditional hot dog stands that Chicago is known for, didn't want to take the risk and open up out at Navy Pier. My brother and I, two young guns, one chef and one front of the house. Really, we come from 3 generations of being in the restaurant business in Chicago, and our whole family are entrepreneurs. We really rolled the dice and took that chance, and here we are, 20-some years later. We opened up our first store. It was wildly successful, the highest, amongst the highest gross sales per square foot for food and beverage at the pier. And so it really resonated with people. And outside of 1 year during the recession, our sales continue to grow every single year. We get a tremendous amount of press. It's really been a success. I mean, we've been featured on everything from, ESPN Sports Center to the Today Show to USA Today. We've really gotten, people really like our story and like our product. And it's humbling because it's just my passion. But they say, if you follow your passion, success usually comes after that. So I've been real lucky.
I would agree with that. Yeah, it was funny because I was in another country. I was in St. Kitts. I think it was back in 2000, Manolis, and I was feeling a little homesick. I was there for about a month, and I said, what, I'm dying for a hot dog, and I went to get a hot dog there, and the hot dog was so different than what I was used to. I don't know what the heck they put on it, but I tasted it and I said, wow, this is really clever. Now I didn't pick up on what you and your brother did. You recognized this opportunity, but it's so true. What are some of the interesting, I guess you could say, flavors, from other cities? Is there anything that, that you like that really stands out or that people really go for?
Yeah. So in Kentucky, we tried a hot dog, and they had a melted cheese that had a smoky flavor to it. Wow. So that was very, very interesting to us. And when you kind of think about Kentucky, you think about bourbon and bacon. Right. And so it goes along with that really kind of southern smoky type of cooking that all of us love. Right. When we went out to California, it was really, really fresh. So we saw several places that had things that were kind of wacky. We went to one place that had fresh cucumbers, which is fine. But then they had they topped it with a little bit of bean sprouts. So if you think about the mid 90s or early 90s, bean sprouts weren't everywhere. They were just kind of like, they were kind of like new in what's happening. When we went to Santa Fe, we went to a hot dog place that had like a pico de gallo on it. So those regional flavors that are tied into. The other thing that's really noticeable is that in Chicago we're used to just a poppy seed hot dog bun. When other parts of the country, they use so many different types of breads to build their sausages. So up in Wisconsin, we went to a place that used a pretzel roll, warmed, buttered pretzel roll, and then put in a beer brat in there. It was delicious. It's great. I mean, when you come into your restaurant, you get to experience, different regions of how they eat hot dogs. I mean, it's really it's clever. At what point, Manolis, did you and your brother know that it was time to franchise? So the restaurant is very successful. You're doing really well, and then at some point in a business, you say, okay, how am I going to grow this thing? At what point did you decide franchising would be the model? It was really quite a journey for us because if you think about a few years ago, right, we were in the depths of the recession. Things were really, really tough. And the economy was contracting, and everyone was just being really, really careful. I knew that it wasn't going to last forever. We had some really successful stores, and I took that time. We hunkered down, but I took that time to really do some exploring and figuring out where we can expand our business and what that model is going to look like. So I talked to some really well-known guys, people that have taken 2 stores, raised a bunch of capital, and opened up company stores. And I got some advice from them. And then I got advice from the founder of a really well-known national franchise model. So, and I also got advice from an investment banker and a private equity guy, both of whom invested in a company-owned expansion and franchise-owned expansion. At the end of the day, because of all the press that we got and because we continue to be successful, what I realized is I looked at myself and said, what kind of restaurants do I want to own myself, and what do I want my company to be like? Being that we're from, entrepreneurial type of family, I walked away after talking to all these people thinking I really wanted to empower small business entrepreneurs and really knowing what the economy was like back then. I wanted to give people the tools to own their own business, make their own decision, employ people, and really to make an effect in people's lives, in the local community, in the local economy. And so franchising really felt right for us, that people in their local community know what their communities want, know how to make an impact, know the people to hire, much more than I do. If I know my area, but as we continue to expand, those decisions should be made really, really at a hyper-local level. And that's what we're doing at AD&B, and that's part of our expansion plan. I don't want to manage 2,000 employees. I want to manage a handful of people that are just going to empower other entrepreneurs to open up other small businesses, kind of like us. That's wonderful. And, you and your brother have, been doing this, for such a long time now, that, of course, over the years, you've made mistakes and you've had successes, and your franchisees get to benefit from those things, don't they? They don't have to make the same mistakes that you and your brother made maybe early on in the business, and they get to share the same success that you've had as well, isn't it? Yeah, it's real interesting because as a young gun starting off, you have a couple of successes and you feel invincible. What's really interesting is the lessons of the failure and recognizing the failures and really learning and turning around from them. I'll tell you the greatest story that, I learned, and I heard about this, but I had not experienced it at that time, is we were really successful, had a small store. It was our 4th location that we opened up, and it was about 1,500 square feet, and people were just loving it and jamming with it, and we had lines and blah, blah, blah. And I thought, we need to open up a larger store. And so I opened up a store that was 1,000 square feet larger. And the store was so big that it always felt empty. It didn't have the good vibe. And the energy was wrong. And so when I walked away from that experience, two things occurred to me. One, smaller is sometimes better in many ways. And then the second thing is, you have to know when to pull the plug. I kept that store open too long because I thought, if I work a little harder, I could turn this around. But after a few years, I said, hey, I want to put my energy towards something that is going to be really, really successful and that I can make an impact on. And so I refocused my energy on my other stores. And wouldn't you know, like those stores are, it really paid off. So that's the type of lesson that I hope to share with other franchisees. Like, no, you don't want a 3,000 square foot store. You really want a 1,500. You want to use marketing efforts in this way. This is what's worked for me. These are the customers that navigate towards A, D, and B. All that kind of information. We worked with a top-notch design firm named Gensler. We brought in 2 consulting steps. We did a market research study on who our customer is, and we did focus groups on our menu. Those are the kinds of tools that someone starting off would never be able to do. But after 20-some years in business, I'm really proud of the effort that we put into making this franchise work.
I love that story. As I mentioned, I've been doing the show 11 years now. It's always great for me how much I learn just in talking to you. That's smaller, for this type of model, of course, is better, because it does affect the energy, and I think it's fantastic. How does America's Dog and Burger differentiate themselves, Manolis, from, like, I guess we could say, other quick service restaurants in your industry?
Sure. Hey, look, there's a lot of people out there, and there's a lot of really, really good operators serving great products. Right. There's no doubt about it. I'm of the belief that there's enough room for everyone, and the way that we kind of niched out our market is, first, our interior is the coolest of cool. I mean, we really spent a lot of time and money making sure that our operation looks and feels great, so the energy is great. But there's a lot of those too. But really what it is that everything's fresh. Like, there's no freezer in our food. Everything from French fries and burgers and dogs and sausages, everything is fresh. More than that is we're getting very close. 90% of our product is all natural. So people are going to always indulge. There's always going to be that indulgence into food. We're not going to eat cucumbers and hummus for our entire life. People are going to eat a burger. But we should feel good knowing that where our food comes from. And so we have that. We are, like I said, the majority of our food is all natural. There's alternatives to sodas. Yeah, if you want, a traditional soda, we have that. But we also have different types of teas and juices that you have that option of. So you can walk out of there, like, really, really satisfied, but also knowing where the food came from and that you really were eating something that wasn't processed.
And this because you've been doing this such a long time. I mean, customers can really tell the difference, can't they, Manolis? I mean, when it's frozen versus fresh, I know I could always tell the difference, and that's important to people today, isn't it?
Oh, that's one thing that came out of the focus groups that we conducted last year is that we are their cheat day. We are their indulgence. But they want to make sure that it's fresh and that it tastes good. And people most certainly can tell the difference between a formed chicken patty that has been breaded and frozen and comes off the truck versus something that it's fresh chicken that we're marinating and hand dipping in panko breadcrumbs and putting it in the fryer. People know the difference. And so like I said, the schism is happening right now where people want healthy options at those healthy restaurants. People also want a burger and food that they're just used to and food that they love, but they want it to be healthy. Now, what I mean by healthy is it may be a higher calorie count, but that just means that they're going to eat lighter at dinner time. America is changing.
Yes, absolutely. If you and your brother were at like a franchise show or a franchise expo, Manolis, and someone came up to your booth and they always ask the typical question, what do you guys do? How do you typically describe the America's Dog and Burger to a prospective franchisee?
Sure. So I would describe it as a quick serve, never frozen, always fresh burger and dog stand that is focused on the regional style of making dogs and burgers, and that everything is made fresh and never frozen. Right. So those are some key talking points. The other thing is that we're proven successful. We've been doing this for over 20 years, and we have very high volume. And I think that having that proven success really means a lot. It takes a little bit of the risk out.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So when we're speaking of franchisees then, Manolis, what do you and your brother look for in your franchisees? Are there any types of characteristics that stand out? Sure.
We're just starting off, and we've had a lot of interest since we launched the franchise effort. So what we're looking for is people that are kind of similar to us. So people that have some restaurant experience, that have been general managers or area managers or franchisees of other food-related organizations. So, if he's a manager of ABC quick serve restaurant, great. We're looking for people that have to ideally, we want to build towards someone that wants to build 3 to 5 locations, but starting off, we know that we're going to have to do deals where it's someone that wants to do 1 to 3 locations. So the experience, the financial means, and the ability to roll up their sleeves and really understand how to work a store and know the store inside and out. So hands-on operators are key. Now, they could eventually move away from that and be more of a owner, supervisor type of a role. But we're not looking for a passive group of people that don't really plug in key players to expand the company.
That's terrific. In studying your background, you and your brother, as you mentioned, you come from really a family of entrepreneurs. What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise, Manolis? Because, as you know, there's a lot of franchises out there. I think that was something like the number sometimes that they say there's 3,000 different franchise opportunities. And when someone says, okay, I want to buy a franchise, in the beginning, it's always very confusing, I think, to a lot of our listeners because they don't even know where to begin. From everything that you've learned, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Well, there's a few things. I would definitely look at, I think what's really important is when you are putting your skin in the game, your hard-earned dollars into the game, looking at a concept that has some track record and some success is step one. The second thing is making sure that you're getting into an organization that has really put the resources in to set you up for success. So are there training manuals? What do they look like? Are there recipe cards? Let me see them. Are there checklists? Are things foolproof for me, the franchisee, so I am being set up for success? The next step is, okay, what have you done to help me choose the right location? And lastly, what kind of ongoing support do you currently have in place in your current operations that it's going to lend to me, the franchisee? So a lot of places out there are going to start franchising, but is it an updated concept? Are they going to give me the support? Most importantly, have they done this right? Have they put their resources into setting up a franchise model that's going to support me in the way that I need to be supported?
I think that's great advice for our listeners, Manolis. So where is America's Dog and Burger, looking to grow? This concept, of course, is certainly national. It could even be international. But, what are your plans as far as growth goes, Manolis?
We have a pretty conservative growth model. My brother and I definitely don't think about making this an overnight success. My dad told me that overnight success usually takes 20 years, right? So we're at the point where we really are starting a new end of our business, And our goal is to have 5 deals signed by the end of this year. With those, they will be multiple locations. So, again, there might be somebody in Chicago who just wants one store. Okay, so that's one deal. But there might be somebody in the far northern suburbs or in Indiana that wants to open up 5 stores. So that would be deal number 2. So we plan on expanding in this area. It's very interesting, though. We're getting a tremendous amount of inquiries from Texas and from the Washington, D.C. area. So we're really evaluating if those are areas that the amount of inquiries that we're getting is notable. And so we are taking a look at those 2 areas in addition to the Chicagoland, Indiana, Wisconsin, Michigan area.
That's
so
terrific.
By the end of our plan is by the end of 5 years that we would have somewhere around 85 deals signed with over 60 stores built and operating.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait till you guys come to Easton, Pennsylvania, because I think you guys would be a really big hit here. So that's I'm patiently waiting. What's the best way for our listeners, Manolis, to get more information on America's Dog and Burger as the franchise opportunity, of course, and even as the product itself? Are there any websites that you would like them to go to?
Yeah, we mid last year we launched our new website, which is adbfresh.com. So adbfresh, and on there you can learn a little bit more about us. But what's really cool is if you click on the menu, you can really see the kind of product that we sell. But there's also the potential franchisee, adbfranchise.com. There's a link on our main menu, but you can go directly to adbfranchise.com and learn more about us.
That's fantastic. Well, I've really enjoyed having you on the show, Manolis, and I'd like to invite you back, you and your brother, next time as you continue to grow, because I think this is a great concept.
Thank you so much for the time. We really appreciate it, and lots of success to you.
Thanks so much, Manolis, and we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up on segment 2, you're going to hear what every franchipreneur needs to know before buying a franchise. We're going to play a clip from our popular Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Are you looking for a franchise that delivers? Businesses will always need shipping, and for more than 25 years, loyal customers have depended on Unishippers for reliable savings and exceptional customer service. Unishippers is focused on just one thing: helping small and medium-sized businesses save time and money on all their shipping needs. And as the largest reseller of complete shipping services in the country, we have the buying power to ensure that we succeed. The Unishippers franchise offers low startup costs, no equipment or real estate required because they're not retail, residual income, and a quality of life and work-life balance. For more information on becoming a Unishippers franchisee, go to www.unishippers.com and click Franchise Opportunities, or call Franchise Development at 801-708-5822. That's 801-708-5822.
Today's Great Quote in Franchising is being brought to you by
The Stone Coat Franchise Opportunity. Are you looking for a unique and lucrative franchise opportunity? If so, take a look at Stone Coat. With a patented process which creates a true stone finish on almost any wall or ceiling, Stone Coat is a true game-changing product in the multi-billion-dollar construction industry. Stone Coat is applied faster, cleaner, and cheaper than conventional quarried stone, which saves both time and money. With advantages in remodel and new construction of both residential and commercial projects, Stone Coat is a true crossover product. The Stone Coat franchise opportunity provides a low startup cost, low operating expenses, comprehensive training, ongoing support, and no royalty payments. For more information on the Stone Coat franchise opportunity, go to www.stonecoatfranchise.com. That's www.stonecoatfranchise.com, or call us at 972-380-2700. That's 972-380-2700.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting franchise interviews many years now, and during that time, we've had some incredible quotes on our show. Today, you're going to get to hear from Sam Hance, who is the president of Stone Coat. And one of the questions we asked Sam when we had him on the show was, what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? And Sam talked about the importance of doing a self-evaluation and asking yourself important questions like, what do you like to do? Because in franchising, experience can be taught. So let's listen to what Sam had to say.
Probably one of the most qualified people to answer the question, studying your background, Sam, is what advice would you give to our listeners? We call them aspiring franchipreneurs. You know, most of them are looking to buy a franchise, but as you know, I mean, there's so much out there today. We find that a lot of them just simply don't know where to begin, and it becomes a bit overwhelming. So what advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise?
Now, Marty, you're touching something that is dear to my heart right now, because this is the part of business that I love, is helping people find their right fit. And that's the primary thing that I tell people. Your starting point is to do a self-evaluation and come up with the things that you like to do. If you are not a hands-on person, don't get into the lawn maintenance business.
Right.
If you like being outside, there's all kinds of businesses to look at outside. If you're more of a analytical bookkeeping type person, there's franchises there. If you have love food, then food offers great opportunities. So that's the first thing I tell people, is really decide what you want to do, what you like to do, not necessarily what you have experience at, because in the franchising world, the experience can be taught. So that's the first starting point. Second thing I tell people is figure out your resources and don't overextend. The Chamber of Commerce, National Chamber of Commerce, says that the number one reason for business failures in the United States is undercapitalization. So you've got to know your resources and don't overextend it. Talk to the people that are most important to you and get their input. And I always tell people, give your loved ones permission to hurt your feelings if that's what it takes, so they can be brutally honest about what they see in you. Then when you get to the company, research the owners first. Know who the owners are. Go visit them. Make sure that their goals and ambitions align with what you really are looking for. And character is important. It's extremely important. Yeah. And then the second thing you want to research is the industry. Is it a good, stable industry? And instead of some fad that could come and go. And then the third thing is research the franchise model. Most people get that a little out of order, because the first thing they want to do is research the franchise model. And I tell them, no, back up and go look at the owners, and then look at the industry, and then thirdly is look at that. And finally, franchising is not selling. Franchising is finding good fits and good matches for life ambitions between the franchisee and the franchisor. And if anybody is pushing you or pressuring you to purchase a franchise, then you need to run away from that as fast as you can. The people on the other side of the table from the prospective franchisee should be just as anxious to get involved in understanding what both sides are looking for.
Wow, it's a great answer. We've been doing the show 10 years, and I have to say that's one of the best responses we've had in almost 500 shows. So I could tell you've been doing this a long time.
Thank you.
It just included everything. It's just a great response. So what are the plans then, Sam? I mean, I can ask you as the president of the organization. I mean, where do you see Stone Coat maybe like 3 to 5 years down the road?
Well,
if you'd like to hear that whole interview with Sam Hance of Stone Coat, all you have to do is go to franchiseinterviews.com, go to our franchises by category page, and go to our home repair and improvement category. You can hear that whole interview. And Sam had a lot of great advice during that particular show. And finally, we just want to thank everyone for making this podcast such a big success. It's hard to imagine now that we've been doing this show almost 10 years now and approaching 500 shows. So we just want to thank everyone for all their support. And we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.